Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share a principle that can quietly change the direction of your life: progress over perfection. Jim Rohn taught us that success is not a sudden explosion. It is the result of small, consistent improvements practiced over time. Yet so many people never begin, not because they lack talent, but because they are waiting to be perfect. Perfection is a beautiful excuse. It sounds intelligent. It feels responsible. But in reality, it is fear wearing a smart mask. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of starting before you feel ready. Jim Rohn reminded us that you don't have to get it right. You just have to get it going. Life rewards motion, not hesitation. Progress is humble. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as reading 10 pages instead of dreaming about a whole library. It shows up as a short workout instead of waiting for the perfect body. It shows up as one honest attempt instead of a lifetime of planning. Progress says, "I'll improve as I move." Perfection says, "I'll move when I improve." And that difference changes everything. Think about this. No successful person started as a finished product. The skills you admire were once awkward attempts. The confidence you respect was once uncertainty. Jim Rohn taught that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. Every small action taken today lifts tomorrow just a little higher. That is the compound effect of progress. When you choose progress, you give yourself permission to grow. You learn faster, you adapt quicker, you build momentum, and momentum, once it starts, becomes your greatest ally. Progress turns mistakes into teachers and effort into experience. Perfection, on the other hand, turns mistakes into stop signs. So don't ask yourself, "Can I do this perfectly?" Ask yourself, "What is the next small step I can take right now?" Because success doesn't come from flawless beginnings. It comes from faithful movement. Move before you are ready, improve while you are moving, and trust that every step forward, no matter how small, is quietly shaping a life that perfection could never create. Small steps taken daily beat perfect plans delayed forever. This single idea carries more power than most people realize because it directly challenges the habit that silently destroys dreams: waiting to feel ready, waiting for confidence, waiting for the perfect time, the perfect resources, the perfect version of yourself. Jim Rohn often reminded us that life does not reward intention, it rewards action. And action does not need perfection, it only needs movement. Every day, people sit on brilliant ideas that never see daylight. Not because those ideas are weak, but because the person holding them believes they must be executed flawlessly from the very beginning. So the plan becomes detailed, refined, polished, and delayed. Days turn into months. Months turn into years, and eventually the dream turns into a regret. Meanwhile, someone else with less talent, less knowledge, and fewer resources moves forward imperfectly and changes their life. The difference was never intelligence. It was daily progress. Small steps may feel insignificant in the moment. Reading 5 pages feels too easy. Saving a small amount of money feels too slow. Practicing for 10 minutes feels almost useless. But Jim Rohn taught that success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is a few errors in judgment repeated daily. The power is not in the size of the step, it is in the consistency of taking it. Perfection demands massive effort up front. Progress only asks for commitment today. Perfection says you must climb the whole mountain before you begin. Progress says just take the next step and the path will reveal itself. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. Small daily steps, compounded over time, quietly outperform even the most ambitious plans that never leave the paper. Think about how confidence is built. It does not appear before action, it appears after repeated action. No one feels confident before their first attempt. Confidence is the reward of showing up again and again. Each small step taken daily sends a message to your mind. I am becoming the kind of person who follows through. That identity shift is more valuable than any perfect strategy. Jim Rohn emphasized that personal development is the foundation of all success. And personal development does not happen in dramatic moments. It happens in ordinary days, through ordinary actions, repeated faithfully. You don't change your life in one leap. You change your life by improving your habits, your thinking, and your discipline one decision at a time. Perfect plans delayed forever feel safe because they protect the ego. If you never start, you never fail, but you also never grow. Progress requires humility. It requires accepting that your first version will not be impressive, that your early efforts may be ignored, criticized, or clumsy. But growth only belongs to those who are willing to be beginners. Small steps taken daily also create momentum, and momentum changes everything. When you act today, tomorrow feels easier. When you skip today, tomorrow feels heavier. Discipline weighs ounces in the beginning, but regret weighs tons in the end. A small step today is lighter than the emotional weight of wishing you had started years ago. There is also a hidden benefit to daily progress: clarity. Many people wait for clarity before acting, but clarity comes from action. You don't discover what works by thinking about it endlessly. You discover it by trying, adjusting, and trying again. Each small step provides feedback. Each attempt sharpens direction. Perfection waits for certainty, but progress creates it. Look at nature. Nothing grows perfectly, but everything grows consistently. Trees do not rush, yet they reach extraordinary heights. They grow ring by ring, season by season. Jim Rohn often used nature as a teacher because success follows the same laws. You cannot plant today and harvest tomorrow, but if you plant a little every day, the harvest becomes inevitable. The tragedy is not failing fast or starting small. The tragedy is never starting at all. A delayed perfect plan steals your future quietly, without noise. Daily progress, even when invisible, is building something powerful beneath the surface. One day, the results show up suddenly and people call it luck, not realizing it was discipline in disguise. Small steps taken daily beat perfect plans delayed forever because life is lived in days, not in someday. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are eventually, and who you become determines what you achieve. Progress is not glamorous, but it is honest. It does not promise comfort. It promises growth. And growth, over time, changes everything. Progress grows confidence. Perfection waits for permission that never comes. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Most people believe confidence is something you must have before you begin, when in reality, confidence is something you earn by beginning. Jim Rohn taught that action is the bridge between ideas and results, and confidence is built brick by brick on that bridge. You don't wake up confident. You become confident by proving to yourself, through action, that you can move forward even when you feel unsure. Perfection, on the other hand, is always waiting for approval. Approval from others, approval from circumstances, approval from an imaginary future version of yourself that feels fearless and fully prepared, but that version never arrives. Perfection keeps asking, what if they judge me? What if I fail? What if this isn't the right time? And while it asks questions, life keeps moving without you. Progress doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait to feel fearless. It understands that fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal that growth is near. Every small action taken despite fear sends a powerful message to the mind, I can handle this, and each time you prove that to yourself, confidence grows naturally without effort. Jim Rohn often said that we must change how we think before we can change how we live. When you choose progress, your thinking shifts from I need to be perfect to I need to be better than yesterday. That shift is freedom. It releases you from the pressure of unrealistic expectations and replaces it with the discipline of improvement. Improvement is achievable. Perfection is imaginary. Look closely at confident people and you'll notice something important. They are not flawless. They are experienced. Their confidence comes from repetition, not perfection. They have failed, adjusted, and tried again. They have embarrassed themselves and survived. They have learned that mistakes are not fatal, and that realization is the foundation of real confidence. Perfection keeps you trapped in your head. Progress gets you into the real world, and the real world is where learning happens. You can read about swimming forever, but confidence only comes when you step into the water. You can plan success endlessly, but belief only forms when effort meets resistance and you push through it. Another danger of perfection is that it creates dependence. You become dependent on motivation, mood, timing, and external validation. Progress creates independence. You act whether you feel like it or not. Jim Rohn taught that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and discipline doesn't ask for permission. It acts on principle. Progress also rewires your self-image. Every action you take becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. When you act consistently, even in small ways, your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who plans and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That internal shift builds confidence faster than any motivational speech ever could. Perfection delays growth by demanding certainty, but certainty is a reward, not a requirement. You gain clarity after you begin, not before. Progress accepts uncertainty and moves anyway. Each step forward reduces doubt because it replaces imagination with experience. And experience is the strongest confidence builder on earth. Jim Rohn warned that the enemy of success is not failure, but neglect, neglecting to act, neglecting to try, neglecting to improve. Perfection often disguises neglect as preparation. It makes inactivity look intelligent, but confidence does not grow in preparation. It grows in participation. Progress teaches you to trust yourself. Every time you take action, you learn that you are capable of handling outcomes, even unfavorable ones. That trust becomes inner strength. You no longer need permission from others because you have earned permission from yourself. And here is the quiet truth. The world does not reward perfection. It rewards value. Value is created through effort, refinement, and contribution. None of those require perfection. They require movement. Progress creates value. Value creates confidence, and confidence creates momentum. Perfection waits for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling. Progress understands that the moment will never be perfect, the plan will evolve, and the feeling will come later. Those who grow confident are not those who waited until they felt ready, but those who moved forward while still uncertain, still learning, still imperfect, and still willing to take the next step. Action refines vision. Movement creates clarity, not thinking alone. One of the greatest illusions people live under is the belief that clarity comes before action. They tell themselves, once I'm sure, I'll start, not realizing that certainty is the outcome of movement, not the requirement for it. Jim Rohn taught that success is not found in waiting for perfect understanding, but in acting on what you know and allowing experience to sharpen your direction. Vision is not something you fully discover in silence. It is something you uncover through motion. Thinking has value, but thinking without action quickly turns into confusion. The mind, when left alone too long, magnifies doubts and invents problems that don't yet exist. You begin to question your ability, your timing, your worth. Action interrupts that cycle. The moment you move, reality replaces imagination, and reality, even when challenging, is clearer than endless speculation. Most people don't lack intelligence, they lack engagement. They are trying to figure out the entire path before taking the first step. But life doesn't work that way. Jim Rohn often compared success to farming. You plant, you nurture, you adjust to the season. You don't demand the harvest before the seed is in the ground. Action is the seed. Without it, vision stays theoretical. When you act, you receive feedback. Feedback refines direction. You learn what works, what doesn't, what excites you, and what drains you. None of that information is available through thinking alone. You can analyze forever and still be wrong, but one honest attempt will teach you more than 1,000 perfect plans. Movement also exposes hidden strengths. Many people underestimate themselves because they have never tested themselves. They assume limits that were never proven. Action reveals capability. Each step forward expands your belief about what is possible. That expansion reshapes your vision, making it more grounded, more realistic, and more powerful. Jim Rohn emphasized that personal growth and success are not separate journeys. As you act, you grow. As you grow, your vision matures. Early visions are often unrealistic or incomplete, and that's not a weakness. It's a starting point. Action polishes the rough edges. It turns vague dreams into defined goals. There is also a deeper benefit to action. It simplifies life. Overthinking complicates everything. You carry mental weight from decisions you haven't made and steps you haven't taken. Action reduces that weight. Once you move, your mind shifts from worry to problem solving. Instead of asking, "What if?" you start asking, "What's next?" That shift brings clarity and calm. Vision without action becomes fantasy. Action without vision becomes chaos. But when you act with even a small sense of direction, vision and action begin to align. Each step informs the next. Each correction improves the path. You don't need the full picture. You need a direction and the courage to move. Perfectionists often claim they are seeking clarity, but what they are really seeking is control. They want guarantees, but life offers none. Jim Rohn reminded us that risk is unavoidable. The only question is which risk you choose, the risk of action or the risk of regret. Action risks mistakes. Inaction guarantees stagnation. Movement also builds trust with yourself. When you act, you prove that you are willing to learn, adjust, and persist. That self-trust is essential because vision requires confidence to evolve. A person who never acts never earns the right to believe in their vision. Belief is strengthened by evidence, and evidence comes from effort. Clarity is often described as a sudden realization, but in reality it is usually gradual. It arrives quietly through repeated engagement. One conversation leads to insight, one attempt reveals direction, one failure points you toward a better approach. None of this happens while waiting. Jim Rohn taught that we must become more than we are if we want more than we have. Becoming requires doing. You cannot think your way into a new identity, you act your way into it. As you move, your goals sharpen, your standards rise, and your vision becomes aligned with your values and abilities. Action refines vision because life responds to effort. Doors don't open to intentions, they open to movement. Opportunities reveal themselves to those already in motion. And as you move, you begin to see not just what you want, but who you must become to achieve it. Clarity is not the starting line. It is the reward for those willing to begin without it. Now let me speak to you, not as a speaker on a stage, but as a fellow traveler on the same road of growth, struggle, doubt, and possibility. If there is one truth that deserves to echo in your mind long after this moment, it is this: your life does not change when everything becomes perfect. Your life changes when you decide to move, not tomorrow. Not when conditions improve, not when confidence magically appears. Right now, with what you have, where you are, you have been waiting long enough, waiting for clarity, waiting for courage, waiting for someone to tell you that you are ready. Let me tell you something powerful. Ready is not a feeling, it is a decision, and decisions shape destiny. Jim Rohn taught that we all must suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. The choice is always yours, and the bill always comes due. Talk to yourself for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, how many dreams have I delayed because I wanted to get it just right? How many opportunities passed because I told myself, I'll start when I'm more prepared? And how many times did fear dress itself up as logic and convince me to stay still? Be honest, because honesty is the first step toward change. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not incapable. You are simply standing at a moment that requires courage instead of comfort. Progress does not ask you to be fearless, it asks you to be faithful. Faithful to the next step, faithful to daily effort, faithful to growth even when the results are not immediate. Look at your life like a conversation with time. Every action you take today is time asking, what do you want to become? And every delay is you answering, not yet. But time is patient only for so long. Eventually, it stops asking and starts revealing the results of your choices. The world does not need your perfection. It needs your contribution. It needs your effort, your voice, your courage, your attempt. History was not written by people who waited until they were flawless. It was written by people who acted while they were unfinished. Progress is the language of achievers. Perfection is the excuse of those who are afraid to begin. Speak to your fear. Tell it you are allowed to ride along, but you are not allowed to drive. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward anyway. Every time you act despite uncertainty, you grow stronger. Every time you avoid action, fear grows stronger. Choose who you want to empower. You may stumble, you may fail, you may have days when motivation disappears and doubt gets loud, but remember this: failure is an event, not an identity. The only true failure is refusing to get back up. Jim Rohn reminded us that success is not owned, it is rented, and the rent is due every day. Pay the rent with effort, pay it with discipline, pay it with progress. Stop negotiating with your potential. Stop lowering your standards to match your habits. Raise your habits to match your vision. The smallest daily action, done consistently, can change the direction of your entire life. One page read daily becomes wisdom. One decision repeated becomes character. One step taken becomes momentum. Understand this deeply. You do not need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Clarity comes from commitment, confidence comes from consistency, growth comes from action, and action, repeated long enough, turns ordinary people into extraordinary examples. So when you leave this moment, do not leave inspired and unchanged. Inspiration without execution becomes frustration. Choose one thing, just one, and move on it today, not perfectly, not impressively, just honestly. Progress respects honesty more than talent. Let today be the day you stop waiting for permission from people, from circumstances, from fear. Give yourself permission to grow. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Give yourself permission to move forward while still learning. Because one day, sooner than you think, you will look back and realize that the step you were most afraid to take became the foundation of everything you are proud of. Move, improve, repeat. Your future is waiting for your action, not your perfection.